Hello and welcome to Weathersnap. I'm Clare Nasir.
And I'm Alex Deakin. This week, as we head towards another bank holiday and school's half term, we're going to be looking at the forecast across Spain, which looks quite interesting.
And details of what's happening closer to home as well. First of all, there's a violent storm currently across open waters just to the west of the Mariana Islands, with sustained winds of 125 miles an hour and gusts in excess of 180 miles an hour. This is a powerful beast, and now all eyes are on northern Philippines and Taiwan. With the latest, here's Met Office tropical prediction scientist Julian Hemming.
Well, it's moving kind of northwest at the moment, as you say, over open waters. So there's no imminent further landfalls happening. We did have a landfall or near landfall over the island of Guam on Wednesday. So we expect it for the next few days to be over open waters, moving towards the west-northwest. And then the interest comes really early next week. So on Monday, we expect Typhoon Mawar to be somewhere just to the east or northeast of the Philippines, and still as a very strong typhoon. And there was a bit of uncertainty once we get into this range in the forecast as to what's going to happen. So one possible solution is that it does go close to the Philippines and lingers close to the northeast of the Philippines for a while and then starts to turn north. But there's another option, which is on the other side of the forecast envelope, if you like, that we're seeing at the moment, where it turns north a little bit sooner and so spares the Philippines from a direct hit. But we still might see impacts on, say, Taiwan, or possibly in the longer range further north, China and Korea, but that's a very long way away.
When we talk about cyclones, wherever they are in the world, the key factor is sea surface temperature. And is that why Mawar can travel for such a long distance?
Yes, Typhoon Mawar is moving over an area of very warm ocean at the moment. It's been over ocean of near 30 degrees, and in fact, the area it's going to move over in the next few days could be even a little bit warmer than that. And so that's a constant source of moisture and energy and heat for the typhoon. So as long as the typhoon keeps moving, then it will be traveling over a fresh source of energy, if you like. It'll carry on at its strength if everything else is still favorable in the atmosphere. Of course, if a storm stalls and becomes slow moving, then sometimes that can cause it to weaken because it'll draw up cooler waters from beneath the surface of the ocean.
Is this unusual for this time of year to see such a huge, violent typhoon, equivalent of a Category 5 across this part of the world?
Well, in the Western Pacific, it is possible to get tropical storms or even typhoons at any time of year, but typically the main part of the season will run from kind of June, July through to November, December. Now, obviously, we're getting a very strong storm, a very strong typhoon in May, and in many years that would be unusual. This year, it's not entirely unexpected because we are going through a transition at the moment from a long period of La Nina conditions to an El Nino. Now, El Nino means an increase in the sea temperatures across the eastern Pacific, but it's also a signature of there's a general warming of the ocean right across the tropical Pacific Ocean.
Thank you very much, Julian Hemming, for the latest on that powerful typhoon. And do check out the Met Office Storms Twitter feed, which Julian runs, posting all kinds of beautiful images of these intensely powerful storms. Now, last month, we reported on an intense heat wave in Spain. Temperatures not usually seen until July or August, but this was at the end of April 2023. Across many parts of Spain, Portugal, Morocco, and Algeria, temperatures were 10, 15, even in places 20 degrees higher than the average for this time of year. For Portugal and mainland Spain, the national April record was broken by big margins, 36.9 Celsius. And in Spain, 38.8 degrees Celsius recorded. These record-shattering temperatures came on top of a historical multi-year drought in this region as well, exacerbated by the impact of heat on agriculture, which is already threatened by an increasing water scarcity resulting from the combined effect of climate change and water use. Spain was on track to have its driest spring on record. But fast forward a month, and this is the region now making weather headlines for a different reason. This is now in the news because of rainfall. Some would say welcome rainfall, of course, but intense and potentially damaging storms cause problems. Flooding, landslides, the ground so dry, you get a lot of runoff and other storm damage. So it's not necessarily great news, but the weather has definitely changed across Iberia.
And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the storm Minerva, which hit Italy. So this whole region has had pretty horrible weather for a good few weeks now. And in fact, earlier this week, the Spanish authorities shut down schools, universities, day centres, because torrential rains were sweeping across the region. And in fact, there was a lot of flooding. And even in Mallorca, further east across the Balearics, they've seen a lot of bad weather with heavy rains as well. So horrible conditions. And as you said, Alex, yes, they've been in drought and they really need the rain. But this is almost like, I know it's a cliche, but they're almost like the wrong type of rain. When you get these intense bursts, it just bounces off the land. The land is unable to absorb the moisture and the rain. And it has been just extraordinary, according to the Spanish weather agency, AEMET. Some locations in the Valencia region have seen more rain in the last few days than the last 6 months combined. So records broken across Valencia and other parts of Spain. So let's just add a bit of clarity to the situation. What's happening on the bigger picture?
Well, we've basically got high pressure that's been extending in from the Azores, dominating the UK. And that means that's the low pressure has got to be somewhere. They've been pushed to the north by the jet stream, but they've also been pushed to the south of this big blocking area of high pressure that's extended in from the Azores across the UK. And so low pressure systems have been pushed to the south, and we've got low pressure dominating not just at the surface across Iberia, but even high up in the atmosphere as well. The weather's pretty static. So across the UK, we've got high pressure at the surface and high pressure aloft, as we say, high up where the jet stream is. And across Spain, you've got low pressure both at the surface and aloft, high up in the atmosphere as well. So the air's just rushing up, creating heavy showers across this part of the world. Now, they're going to be hit and miss. Not everywhere is going to see them, but each day downpours will occur in different parts of the country. But we are going to see heavy, thundery showers merging into longer spells of rain at times as we go through the weekend and even into next week.
Yeah, so southern parts of France have also seen some quite violent and heavy rain. And as you say, it's going to be hit or miss. It's worth just checking the forecast every day. There are going to be days where you'll see less rain and more in the way of sunshine. But you can see on the charts these filaments just gradually drifting across Iberia, northern parts of Africa, which really enhance the shower activity. So yes, exact locations will be different, but there will be large amounts of rain. And obviously, we'll keep you posted here on our Twitter feed. But another really good go-to is the Spanish Met Service, AEMET. They've just got lots of information there. And there's currently warnings out across the eastern side of Spain and the interior and towards Portugal as well for storms. Let's now just come back to the UK. And, May's been a strange month because we've had 3 bank holidays. I mean, I think last week people thought they had the Monday off. It was actually a normal working day. And we had a bit of a mixed spring, really. But high pressure, we've just talked about, is really asserting itself.
Yeah, really strong signals from all the computer models that the high pressure is going to dominate, not just through this bank holiday weekend, but also for most of next week. So it's pretty unusual to have high pressure dominating. Now, the exact position of the high will determine where we have what we call the flow, basically where the winds are coming from. And the winds make a big difference at this time of year because the sea is still fairly chilly. So the sea is obviously warming up at this time of year, but it's still lagging behind. So if you get an onshore breeze, it's going to be on the cool side. And yet the sun is strong enough that inland, away from breezes, it's going to feel pretty warm. Now, this high is building in, as mentioned earlier, from the Azores, from the west. So we're not tapping into heat from further south because there isn't any. But this is just the temperatures are not going to be spectacular as a result. So just pleasantly warm, really, I think is probably the best way to describe it in the sunshine. A little bit cooler on some coasts. Now, as always, as you mentioned, there's always going to be a few variations. This high pressure will weaken at times across northern Scotland, allowing weather fronts to trickle in. So a bit of patchy rain in the north, particularly so on Saturday. And behind that cold front, it will turn a little cooler actually during Sunday and Monday. Some North Sea coasts will be a little fresh, shall we say, on Bank Holiday Monday. But generally, the weather's set fair, high pressure dominating, a lot of dry weather, and throughout next week as well. So that means sunny spells for the majority throughout the entirety of the half-term week as well. Only right at the back end of next week is there some suggestion that we could start to see a little change in the threat of some showers coming up from the south. But it doesn't look spectacularly hot. Now, normally, if you have high pressure sitting over the UK day on day, you'd expect temperatures to rise by a couple of degrees. That's not really happening. We've got this cold front coming south, reducing the temperatures Sunday, Monday. It will get warmer next week, but still only kind of high teens, low, perhaps mid-20s at best by the end of the week. So it's not a hot spell by any stretch of the imagination. As I said, pleasantly warm is probably the best way to describe it. And the mornings will still be chilly. Still potential across northern Britain for temperatures to get down close to freezing. So something gardeners to be aware of there. But yes, plenty of dry weather to come across the UK for next week.
Yes, it's, we rarely say that, don't we? Bank holiday and also a schools break. Fine,
Incredible.
kids can get outside, but obviously UV is going to be high across many areas.
Yes.
And you burn really quickly along the coastline with the reflection of the sand and the sea from the sunshine. So yeah, it's worth noting there. So yes, really good. To be honest, what's our optimum temperature? Probably 22 for me, 23.
I'd like a 25, 26
You like
myself.
a
I think
25,
a little bit warmer than that, but I like the temperatures where you've got to eat your ice cream quick, otherwise it melts. That kind of start
That's your
dribbling
litmus
down.
test.
That is my litmus test.
Yeah.
If my ice cream's not melting, I'm not happy. Can I point out Twitter Spaces on the Met Office Twitter feed for people heading to the coast with water safety? So teamed up with the RNLI and Coast Guard Agency. So lots of top tips are on that Twitter Spaces if you are heading to the beach during half term.
Before we have our and finally, and there's a great and finally this week.
Is this a thing? Is it? And finally,
it's a thing. It's a new thing.
Okay.
Well, I don't think it's new. I'm sure Terry Wogan did this for years on his shows on the BBC. Standing on the shoulders of giants here. Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
So let's just head over to Ollie, who has last week's highs and lows.
Here are the UK's weather extremes for last week, from Monday the 15th of May. The warmest spot was Porthmadog in Gwynedd. On Sunday, the mercury peaked at 23.3 Celsius. The coldest place was Catesbridge, County Down, where the temperature dipped to minus 0.7 Celsius. The wettest day was Friday, where on the Isle of Portland in Dorset, 26.4 millimetres of rain fell. And finally, the highest amount of sunshine was recorded in Leconfield, Humberside, last Sunday, when 15.1 hours was clocked up.
Great work, Holly. Thank you so much. So, as you know, Alex is a astrophysicist. Well, he did a degree in astrophysics.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago, I did a degree.
Yeah. And this is really good. This has popped up, actually. And this is our and finally. And it's pretty much because we're seeing some starry skies. And this is in the news for all those people like Alex who love a bit of, stargazing. When a massive star dies, it goes out with a bang and it creates a stunningly bright explosion that can temporarily change the look of the night sky. Now, the brightest and the closest may be visible with the naked eye, but even in the most distant galaxies, it's easy to spot with amateur equipment. And that's exactly what's happened. Well, it probably happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, but we're now seeing it. And it's an opportunity to spot something in the sky, which is sort of quite spectacular, really.
Yeah, probably millions, if not billions of years ago. It's probably
you are the one in
light
the
years ago, isn't it? To be fair, a supernova that went off near the spiral galaxy M101, which is one of my favorites, and you can find it in the night sky. Apparently, is that what we're saying? According to NASA,
yes, you can.
So, is it? Do you see the star exploding, or is it just the fact that it's not there now that it was there? There's a burst.
So there's a burst.
So haven't we missed that, or is it still?
It's still visible. It's still visible. Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to compare it to what it was like before, are you?
No.
I think there's some footage on Twitter of it, what it looked like before and what it looked like after.
So you can be able to spot it. But in fact, it was only spotted first just a few days ago, last week, and it's likely to remain visible with a telescope in the sky for months now. So it's an amazing
okay.
opportunity, really, to, you know, I've got a telescope which my husband bought me about 20 years ago, and I think I've used it twice. So it's a good reason just to dust down that telescope and just have a look. So basically, we're looking for the Galaxy M101, as Alex said. And that is, tell me where that's located, Alex. I can't
It's
remember.
in Ursa Major, I believe, the constellation of Ursa Major. So it's always going to be above the horizon. You're always going to be able to see it. But yeah, for more details of exactly where to look, you probably need to head to the NASA website.
Yeah, but isn't that great? It's like almost a guaranteed view of something just beautiful in the night sky when the skies are clear. So something to do this bank holiday if you are a sort of a night owl.
And don't forget, it's noctilucent time of year, isn't it? So there's a chance as we head into June for some noctilucent clouds. This is the time of year you're most likely to get them.
Yes, and in fact, we've just done a mostly weather podcast on noctilucent clouds with the main man from the Cloud Appreciation Society, Gavin. And we could talk about noctilucent clouds for probably about 2 minutes. He did 35 minutes on the subject.
Whoa.
There's 4 different types apparently.
Is there?
And maybe more,
know.
yeah. So a really interesting discussion with Helen Roberts and Jeff Norwood Brown, and an amazing guest. It's Cloud Appreciation Society, proper deep dive into noctilucent clouds. Find out more about that on our podcast channel. So what are you doing this weekend, Alex?
Oh, it's big birthday weekend in my house. Wife and middle child's birthdays this weekend. So the grandparents are down, barbecue action, and no football. Football season has finally ended.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. Is it? No, not so good. I don't know.
How about you?
Oh, the thought of standing on the pitch, anyway, in the cold, but now it's warming up. I'm going to be on a boat in the Irish Sea, dodging jellyfish and trying to be a fun mum, basically, with snorkel gear, etc. Without going, I just don't think I can do this anymore. But this is
Trying to be a fun mum.
So yeah, we're going to Wales for a couple of days, which is lovely, which is good because we'll probably get some nice weather.
Yeah, it should be beautiful. Absolutely cracking. Have a wonderful time.
Yeah, whatever you guys are doing, thank you first of all for listening, but have a great bank holiday. Stay safe if you are out and about. Certainly if you're dipping your toe into coastal waters, it's still rather frigid out there. And we'll be back very soon with another weather snap.
Goodbye. Another great weather snap, Claire. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to hit subscribe. Then you catch all of our daily weathers on YouTube as well.
And if podcasts are your thing, check out our Met Office podcast channel. Lots of information, lots of stories there. And we'll see you again next week.